Good afternoon. This is Douglas Block. It's noon in Portland, Oregon, Wednesday, November 1st, the first day of November, the Day of the Dead, where the veil between the seen and the unseen worlds is the thinnest, and where they say you can communicate with those on the other side. As a matter of fact, there's a holiday in Mexico called El Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and my goddaughter is actually in Mexico right now, Mexico City, and I'll just read to you some of what she wrote to me. Let me see here. Okay, so this is Amy May, my goddaughter. She says that it's wild in Mexico City. People stay overnight in the cemeteries with their dead loved ones. There's a lot of parades. I say, what do they have? Huge puppets. And there's tons of marigolds everywhere because they are blooming right now, and apparently they're used as a symbol of life and death. Isn't that interesting? And cultures all over the world are now celebrate Halloween, and on the same day, I think in the Celtic religion or spirituality, there's about what do you call it? This time is actually the Celtic New Year, I believe. And in Ireland, they have big festivals, and they have a huge festival in Salem, Massachusetts, to celebrate this. So all over the world, people are celebrating Halloween last night and the Day of the Dead today. And yeah, so anyway, here we are, another hour where I can answer any of your questions. Let me see, is anybody, I'm going to basically just say hello. Let me see if I can get this. Hello from Douglas. Hello from Douglas. And that's my message. Let me see if my friend Mike is watching right now. I'm going to basically have him send me a text. So let me just go ahead and text Mike from Pennsylvania. Okay. Hey, Mike, send me a question. And there you go. All right, well, we're waiting for questions to come. I wanted to basically talk about the video I just uploaded called Does Exercise Really Heal Anxiety? Hey, Josie Quinn says, hi, Douglas. Nice to hear from you, Josie. Oh, Audrey says hello also. Tyler says hello. I'm watching. Great. So the exercise was called Healing from Depression. Not the exercise. The video on Monday is called Does Anxiety Really Heal Depression? Thanks, Josie. Hey, Danielle, nice to hear from you. Tyler, nice to hear from you. From Pennsylvania, cool. Aubrey, nice to hear from you. Cool. Nice of all you people to check in. Please ask your questions. Anyway, so the video I posted on Sunday, actually on Monday morning, was Does exercise really heal anxiety? Now, that's kind of a rhetorical question, right? Of course it heals anxiety. It heals depression. It's one of the best things you can do for yourself. And I talk about a friend of mine who basically was doing something called neurotic walks way back in high school when we were studying for a chemistry test. He said to me one day in the middle of studying for the test, he said, hey, Doug, I got to take a break. I'm getting really nervous. I'm getting really anxious. I have ADD. What is the best way to rid agoraphobia, says Jacob Wellesley. Well, the best way to get rid of agoraphobia is, one, go find a therapist. Go seek out a therapist who specializes in that. My good friend Julie, who is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, if any of you are near there, she specializes in that. It can be treated. It's an anxiety disorder. The idea is exposure, to slowly get yourself used to being outside and around other people. Texas, I'm trying to make the perfect sandwich. Can you help? Not really. Exercise helps me to burn that tension out of my body, says Patty Brady. Absolutely. Really, exercise is the number one thing to burn chemicals out of your body, the agitating chemicals that come with anxiety, because you're in a fight or flight mode. Your body is getting ready to fight or flee. All the, your breathing is up, your heart rate is up, your blood is flowing to your muscles. It's really quite a state you're in. And exercise allows you to work with the large muscles of your body and get rid of that tension. Uh, Getting back to the question we had here about exercise and about agoraphobia, excuse me. Um, yeah, it's really important to go ahead and start to gradually go outside. Uh, Maybe it means just stepping outside on the doorstep and standing on your porch for a minute or two and looking outside. Maybe the next time you go to the mailbox, maybe to the street, you gradually expose yourself more and more. There are also anti-anxiety medications like Klonopin that can really help. But go find a good psychiatrist and a good therapist who you can work with. Uh, Dorothy says, "Hi Douglas, forgot it would be an hour earlier here in the UK. Our clocks went back 1 hour Sunday, so it's 6 o'clock here. Wow, glad my phone gave me a reminder. It's now 7 hours difference, but guess what? We're going back to standard time on Saturday, so pretty soon, Dorothy, it'll be back to the 8 hours different. Ending out a workout with some sauna or steam room is nice too. That's what Arcade Cup says. Thank you. Hey, Dennis says, hey, Douglas, I brought your book, Healing from Depression. It's very good, but I still struggle in structure. I'm walking around, um, but after a while, I'm lacking purpose and activities. Well, you have to set some activities up. That's the whole key. You've got to set activities up for yourself and really have some structure and have something to do. Um, if you don't have like some place to go to, then you basically, if you don't have something set up with like a day treatment program, then you basically have to kind of create it yourself. So we have something from Marcos right here. What does he say? He says, if I can find it, how do we get up and get more? We have to make this thing bigger. I can't get to the top of the screen. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back. Just give me a second, okay? I'm going to go back to System Preferences, and I'm going to go back to Display, and I'm going to get back to Default, and then I'm going to time that out, and then maybe I can see more of your questions now. Let me check this out here. Jacob says, I have to leave, but I have a fervor. I do not go past. Well, in terms of agoraphobia, again, that's where it's important to seek out therapy. Okay, now I can see you guys. Okay, on a serious note, says Marcus, I have trouble being emotionally open with my family. However, no problem being emotionally open with my friends or random strangers. Thoughts? Apathy? Well, your family are the hardest people to basically be close to. All the old triggers come up and all the past hurts. I have something I'm going to post soon or publish soon. It's called The Guaranteed Way to Improve Your Relationships. And it's based on something called nonviolent communication. Look out for that video. It's coming up in the next month or two. The best way to improve your relationships. Marco, go ahead and type nonviolent communication in Google and see what you can read about it. It's all about how to communicate with people in a way that is compassionate and opens a dialogue of communication. So again, Jacob, find somebody who you can really talk to about this, a good therapist. They can help you get beyond that perimeter. We had a gal in our group who had severe agoraphobia, had to quit her job, and after treatment went back to the job and even got a promotion. Smart Man Channel says, hey man, I have, again, the same kind of question. The last time your girlfriend cheats on you and confesses you take her back, but she wanted to party and all around. Yeah, well, if you're having those type of relationships and you don't trust her, this is where you need to go into couples therapy and get a mediator. Hey, Priscilla, tuning in from Dallas. Steven says, steam room is medicine. Of course it is. I have something called, in my book, under physical self-care, saunas and steam room, not steam rooms and jacuzzis. It's called hydrotherapy. Priscilla says, that's how my boyfriend is. Maybe you guys should talk about it. Chris Burke says, Doug, wondering if you've made a video about whether or not depression can have symptoms of other mental illnesses. Well, when depression gets really bad, you can have what's called a psychotic depression, where essentially you experience delusions and paranoia. I have a person in my group who gets paranoid, thinks there's a conspiracy against him. These other symptoms can come with depression when it's really bad. It's called psychotic depression. Also, you can have symptoms of anxiety. You can have an agitated depression, which is what I had, where you're pacing back and forth. You can't sit still. You're moving around like this. Oh my God, that's called agitated depression. That is really bad. So yes, Chris Burke, depression can have other symptoms of mental illness. Arcade Cup says exhausting exercise gives me hours of elation. That's exactly what one of the gals said in the Monday group. She worked out at the gym until her muscles were so sore she didn't think she could, take it anymore. Then she went down to the TV room and said she felt high for about 3 hours. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I hear this over and over again. As a matter of fact, when I was first moved to Eugene in 1973, my God, that seems like centuries ago. Hey, if anybody's watching this in the next century, it will be centuries ago. Uh, there was something, the running phenomenon was just starting in Eugene, Oregon. It was called Tracktown, USA. And essentially what was happening was people got into this thing called runner's high. You'd go out on the jogging path, and after 20 or 30 minutes of, steady exercising, suddenly the endorphins would be set off. The pleasure chemicals in your brain would be set off in your brain, or would be, elicited. And people felt the same sort of elation you're talking about. Patty says, are you still using your SAD light every day? That's seasonal affective disorder. Well, guess what, Patty? We've had a great October in Portland, Oregon. The sun has been out more days than not. The sun is out today. But on the 2nd of November, tomorrow, it's supposed to start raining. And traditionally in Oregon, in Portland at least, that's when the rain really starts happening. So I will be using it soon, but I'm not using it quite yet, but it is just around the corner. All right. Any other questions I haven't gotten to yet? Let me see. I don't think so. I'm looking. Nope, not yet. So keep them coming. And again, any and all questions about depression, recovery, mental health recovery. Exercise is good for recovering alcoholics and addicts too. Yes, 7-1. They've done a study that shows when people were put on an exercise treatment program during inpatient treatment for drug and alcohol disorders, or drug and alcohol addictions, and then they were released, as they always are after 28 days or whatever, 35 days. They did a follow-up, and the people who developed a regular exercise routine while in treatment had a 20 to 30% lower relapse rate than the people who did not. Did you hear that, 7-1? That is awesome that you were basically doing this this exercise routine if you're in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And by the way, I did a video out about the relationship depression and alcoholism and drug addiction. And guess what? There's a big relationship, because there's about an 80% co-occurring disorder statistic that says that 80% of the people who are suffering from addiction or alcoholism are also suffering from depression and anxiety. That's called dual diagnosis. So if you are struggling with an addiction, you want to also treat the mental health aspect of your situation. Dorothy Yu says, is agitated depression also when you feel your heart bursting out of your chest and you have continuous racing thoughts, even your dreams? Yeah, that could also be panic disorder, really. The racing thoughts could also be a kind of a hypomania. So Dorothy, have you actually seen a psychiatrist and got a diagnosis of what is going on? Is it major depression? Is it agitated depression? Is there some maybe mania going on, or is there panic disorder? The racing thoughts are usually panic disorder or also mania, but it's hard to know. It's very difficult. 7-1 says, awesome. Yeah, why don't you share that with your friends in recovery, 7-1, about how therapeutic exercise is and how it basically it can really help reduce the cravings for alcohol and drugs and give you that elation that you're seeking. See, the problem with taking cocaine, methamphetamine, stimulants, opiates, right, Adderall, even, Isaac Newton discovered something very important back in like 1650. It's called the law of gravity, which means what goes up must come down. So, if you're high, whether it's on manic depression, which is natural chemicals in your brain, or, meth or cocaine or anything else that gets you a stimulant, you're going to crash, man. And you know what? The higher you go, the deeper you crash. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. Greg says, what can you tell me about Wellbutrin and Zoloft? Do you mean at the same time? They're both antidepressants. One works on dopamine, one works on serotonin. Seems like a good combination to me if that's what your psychiatrist thinks. So, Greg, what is your experience? Mario says, it's okay to distance yourself from a person, say a brother, or cutting them out of your life completely if they're bad for you, only give you negatives. If so, when should a person begin? Well, if you have someone in your life who's toxic, you should try to set boundaries with them and say, please, when you're around me, don't be critical, don't say this or that. And if they keep doing it, you may have to say, look, until you can stop that, I got to take a time out because this is not healthy for me. So, you try the more conservative approach first by asking them politely to, not do the offending behaviors. And if they don't stop, then you may have to step back for a while, not cutting people off, forever. I've had many situations where there have been ruptures in relationships around me in my groups, and I've seen people after a while reconnect, but initially you have to take care of yourself. Um, Priscilla says, when going through depression, do you often have bad dreams? Well, yes, and sometimes people with depression don't dream at all, but bad dreams, nightmares. I have a gal who had had nightmares her whole life until she started doing something called transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS. I have a video on it. It's awesome. I've got a number of clients doing it now. Here in the Great Britain or the UK, there's only one place that's in London that offers TMS. I don't believe it. That's got to be wild. But yeah, where do you even get cocaine, says Danielle? I don't know. I've never tried it. I just use that as an example. I know cocaine was really big in America in the 80s and 90s. I'm sure it's still around somewhere, but I'm not going to seek it out, man. I've had enough crashes in one day. Where do you? Yeah, so I have no idea, Daniel. I have no interest in finding out. Jacob Wellesley says, I need to get back to exercise. I used to have the martial arts as my escape. Oh my God, that's an amazing thing to do, Jacob. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So yeah, get back to it. My depression has made me not have the motivation, but it helped greatly with my anxiety. Well, if you don't have the motivation to exercise, have a friend exercise with you. That's one of the best things that you can really do. Do you have major issues with your memory when you were depressed? GMAX says, yeah, my memory was really bad. But guess what? It came back. I'm going to do a video on something called restoration. Restoration is an idea that when you have a really bad time and you descend into the pit, when you come back out, not only are you where you were before, but you're even better. If you read the last chapter of the book of Job, it said that God restored Job. Job was the guy who suffered these horrible things. He restored Job to where he was and even increased his prosperity over what it had been. So, yes, the bad memory occurs because you know what depression does? It shrinks something called the hippocampus, HIPPOCAMPUS. It looks like a seahorse. That's what hippocampus means in Latin, seahorse. It deals with short-term memory, and they actually show that when you're depressed, the hippocampus gets smaller and smaller. As that happens, your short-term memory gets worse and worse. Can you believe it? Depression actually affects a structure in your brain. But when you get better, or naturally you're taking antidepressants, the hippocampus gets bigger and bigger and gets back to its original size. That's what I mean about restoration. But very good question, GMAC. Very good question. Greg Sandler says, I just started taking them. Been on Zoloft for a month. Haven't felt anything yet. Excited to see what Wellbutrin does as well. Greg, I'm taking, or GMAC, Greg, I'm taking Wellbutrin, and I feel a little bit better. There are people in my group. The first person I ever met in my group back in 2001 who was severely depressed and suicidal went on Wellbutrin, and after 12 weeks of being in my group and doing the Wellbutrin, he was about 80% better. So good luck. Also, if the Zoloft doesn't do anything, you may want to go in a higher dose. So that's the other thing that people do when they're not feeling anything. Mike says he sent a question. I don't know where that question is. Mike, maybe you should send it again because I've had so many questions coming in. I don't really know, how to keep track of them all. So try sending your question in again, and maybe I'll get it this time because there's been a flood of questions coming in here. Thanks, Mike. Any other questions come? Just basically ask them. I'm here. It's now 19 after the hour. One of the things I want to mention is those of you who basically have, his question was 209. Well, GMAC, why don't you repeat it for me? That would be great because we're 1911 and that question is long gone. By the way, there is something called Super Chat on the lower right-hand part of your screen. It's a way for you to support this channel and support what we're doing. If you go ahead and click on that and you basically make a small donation, your question will go right to the top of the charts and I'll be able to see it. But the main reason to donate is just because you support what we're doing. So GMAC or Mike, ask the question again. That would be really helpful. So getting back to my video on exercise, which I published just yesterday, it is really, really amazing what exercise can do for anxiety. Stila Marie Brown says, a friend just shared your channel, so help. Thanks for your work. I experienced postpartum depression, my second child. Still balancing myself out emotionally 4 years. Yeah, I have a good friend who basically has been on postpartum depression, or has been dealing with that. And that has been really, really, really tough. And I just hit full screen. God, how do you get out of full screen now? Well, let me see. Give me just a second here. Ah, I am trying to basically get out of full screen mode so I can see your questions. And okay, exit full screen. Thanks. Okay, great. So yeah, postpartum depression can be really, really, really tough. I have a friend who's a nurse who experienced it twice when she was depressed, and it was really, really a bad thing. It affected her with her first child and her second child. Sometimes people actually get psychotic, and they basically become, negative or to their own children, going against the mother instinct. I don't know, Stina Marie Brown, how did postpartum depression affect you? And I'm glad you're getting better, even if it's taking 4 years. But yeah, that's a particular kind of depression I haven't really talked about. And I'm going to do a video on it. That's a really good. Stina, thank you so much. I'm going to do a video on postpartum depression because it's much more common than you think. And a lot of women, after they have their babies, go into a deep depression. Sometimes they even have hostile thoughts towards their babies, even sometimes they even harm them, and they become completely psychotic. There was a famous case back on the East Coast where a woman, I think, might have even killed her children, and the defense was that she suffered from postpartum depression that made her psychotic. So yeah, it's bad news, and it can be treated like all other types of depression. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, so so anxiety and exercise, and how anxiety definitely will help exercise and help to decrease the symptoms. I talked about my friend's neurotic walk. I'll give you a personal example of what happened to me, and that is that I went ahead in 1996. I took a dose of an antidepressant that sent me into something called akathisia, which is, I did a video on that. Stina Marie Brown says, I didn't know it was depression. That's why I was feeling so lost until I was writing my book. And my editor said, Stina, that's PPD. I wanted to start over. I wish my family has continued. Anyway, great. Well, I'm glad someone basically identified it for you. Arcade Cup says, can mania last more than a year, even years when you feel like you're flying? Yeah, I guess it can. I'm not an expert in manic depression, but usually mania lasts a couple of months. I've never heard it lasting a year, though. That must be amazing to feel that good for a year. But then the crash must be really bad. So I know. Have you had a mania that lasted a year? Let me know. I've usually heard them lasting a lot, a lot less than that. So I think that you should talk to your doctor if you think it's really gone on for you. That seems like a long time. Have you ever discussed depression stemming from perfectionism, GMAC? God, you guys are amazing. That's another video coming up. Yeah, depression and anxiety. What happens when you put high standards on yourself that can't be met? You start to feel like a failure. You start to put yourself down. You start to criticize yourself. You also get anxious because you're not living up to the standard. Perfectionism is deadly, and there needs to be more written about that. So thank you. GMAC, have you ever suffered from perfectionism? Have you ever dealt with it? Do you know anybody who has? This is a problem that needs looking into. So let me know. Stina Marie Brown says, until I was writing, sharing my story has been powerful. I never wanted to hurt my kids, but I felt so trapped and isolated. So Stina Marie, what were you writing about? Was it fiction? Was it nonfiction? I'd like to know. A lot of creative people suffer from depression. A lot of creative people suffer from mania and bipolar disorder. It comes with the territory. By the way, it's time for a joke. Yes, it's 24 minutes after the hour, and one of my viewers actually sent this in to me. Tell me, you guys, what you think. So the question is, and this is very appropriate because it's Halloween, why did the vampire get fired from the blood bank? Anybody know? He was caught drinking on the job. Oh my God, that couldn't have been that bad. Okay, more about Halloween. What do skeletons say before eating? Bon appetit. Ouch. Anyway, I think they were cute puns. I love puns. Dorothy, you said, sent a donation last week. Hope help you with your excellent work. Yeah, bless you, Dorothy. I did receive it on Super Chat. Thank you so much. Dorothy, support this station, and really, really nice that you're doing that. Thank you so much, Dorothy. So no one has given me feedback about that joke. Oh well. I hope somebody liked the joke. Anyway, somebody must have liked it. So, oh, there's a bird that's disappeared. That's unusual. Out the window. So, what else can we talk about anxiety and exercise? A whole lot. So, the Forever Freak says, very punny. Okay, someone was paying attention. So, let's go back to how anxiety can heal depression. Mike Bordner says, first week back at work, feeling a bit depressed. I believe the basic change in sleep, general feeling of lack of joy, which keeps me ruminating. What can I add into my structure to help? Well, exercise, exercise, exercise. After you get off of work, I know you're working part-time, take a walk or go to the gym and get on the treadmill. You've been sitting around at work, doing stuff at a desk. Get moving. So, Greg, I think that would be very, very helpful. Mike, if you get out and do some movement. GMAX says, I believe perfectionism was the root of my anxiety and depression at the beginning of college. I've struggled with it off and on again for years. Aubrey says, the jokes were cute. GMAC, by the way, where do you live? Are you like so many other people calling from the UK, or you live in the States? I'd like to know. But anyway, I'm really glad you are working on that. So GMAC, for the visitors and for my next video, I'll even give you credit. What are you doing to help you become less perfectionistic and basically to decrease the perfectionism, which is at the root of your anxiety, as you say? Stina Marie says, do you have any videos about how a spouse can best support you through a depressive episode? I'm pondering this myself. Yes, Stina, go to my YouTube channel, which you're on, and after this chat, type in when someone you love is depressed. I have a whole video on that, and also go to healingfromdepression.com, and I have a whole bit of information about that too. It's called When Someone You Love is Depressed. Hey, Alan McNair, I haven't heard from you yet. GMAC, you live in Oregon. Well, happy East Coast. I have a number of friends who live there, and one of the members of my group has her mom who lives there. Do you have a Patreon set up and planning on doing so? God, you viewers are just phenomenal. I can't believe how great you are today. So for anybody who doesn't know, Patreon is a crowdsourcing site like GoFundMe, but it's for creative people like me, and especially for people who do YouTube videos. And what you do is you have you support them with a monthly donation that can be as little as $1 a month, or anything up to a couple of hundred. And at each level of donation, you get something back, like you get free ebooks from me, or free print books, or you get to be in a private chat session, or you get to get one-on-one time with me for 30 minutes for an hour. So I am in the middle of setting that up, Alan. I hope to have it up and running in the next 2 weeks. That you just read my mind. So Alan, what do you know about Patreon? Have you basically supported other people on that who are doing the same type of thing I'm doing? And I hope you'd be willing to contribute to my Patreon account, because I love doing this, but can you imagine how much time it takes really to write the scripts, to go ahead and edit them, to go have someone come videotape me, to pay them, to go have them uploaded to my channel, to go over them, to edit them again. I mean, it's a huge production, no pun intended. But it's, I'm unfortunately, I did not invest in Apple. I did, but I sold it. Oh my God, what did you do that for? I did not invest in Google. Oh my God, I sold Google too. I sold Apple and Google. I'd be a multimillionaire. We'd be broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii, from Maui, from Kauai, from wonderful places. What am I going to do? Well, I have a video called Forgive Yourself for Your Mistakes. Every day I get down on my knees and say, Mother, Father, God, please forgive me for selling Apple computer. But I have 5 Apple instruments, so I'm making them rich, even if I'm not getting so. So going back to your question, I will have a Patreon account, and I will let you guys know. Thank you so much for asking. Tennessee Gooseman, I love that, says, any thoughts on ketamine infusions for treatment-resistant depression? It has worked wonders for me. Invest in Tesla, says Arcade Cup. Yeah, that is a place of the future. Are they listed on the stock exchange? Anyway, ketamine infusions are something. Ketamine is actually an animal tranquilizer that used to be used recreationally. It was called Special K, it's out there now in some parts of the country where you can get it. It takes away the depression immediately, but Tennessee Guzman, what I've heard about is you have to keep getting the infusions to make it last, or make them last, and essentially they don't. They basically are expensive. So I wondered if your ketamine infusions are working, how many times you have to take them, and how much it's costing you. You don't have to give the exact amount of dollars, but is it expensive is what I'm asking you. Arbor Clamor says, I would like to see video from you on postpartum depression and PMDD, which is what I'm diagnosed with. It'd be interesting to see your take on some female issues. Yes, well, I've always thought I was a woman in a man's body, but not quite a female. However, uh, a lot of my friends and some of my editors, I mean, I've been writing books for 40 years. All my editors are female, so yeah, I'm sure I can get some good information. What does PMDD stand for? Is that premenopausal disorder or post? Yeah, I think PMD. So anyway, postpartum depression definitely. Um, so yes, I'll take a look at that, and it would be good to post that since they say twice as many women have depression as men. Don't you believe it? Men have depression, but they just manifest it in different ways, often through workaholism and anger and sometimes abuse. So it comes out then differently. Men get just as depressed as women, believe me. Greg says, I've been feeling a bit paralyzed by anxiety. I'm too afraid to live life. Adult life just seems too scary. Don't feel comfortable in my own skin. So what are you taking, Greg? I think you said Wellbutrin and Zoloft, maybe some anti-anxiety medication. Two things, a little commercial break here. My book, which a couple of you have, it's called healingfromdepression.com. It really is something I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into. You can get it on Kindle for $9.99 from Amazon.com, or for $15 you can get it a paperback copy. And you can also download from my website the memoir in that for only $2.99. It's called When Going Through Hell, Don't Stop It. I wrote it when I came out of my major depression 20 years ago. That's a really good video you have on how spouse can support you. It might help if you watch it with your spouse, says Dorothy to the person who asked about that. Also, I get lots of emails, but I always have enough time to answer them. Here's my email address, douglasblog@gmail.com. Please feel free to email me anytime, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you with any of your questions, links, or anything else. So, getting back to the whole anxiety issue and exercise. So, I had taken this medication called Effexor, and I had a reaction called akathisia. I was pacing back and forth, jumping out of my skin. It was horrible. People commit suicide when they feel that bad. And I called an old friend from Eugene I'd lost in contact with named Teresa. She was now a psychiatric nurse practitioner. She said, Douglas, don't you know the only way to burn those agitating chemicals out of your brain is to exercise until you drop? I said, what do you mean? She said, exercise until you're so exhausted you can't even take another breath. Do that and see what happens. So I had a friend of mine drive me to our neighborhood pool because I was swimming back then, and I went ahead and I started swimming laps and laps and laps, and I would synchronize the swimming to the following affirmation: I am healing, I am healing, I am whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It was hypnotic, and I lost track of time. Well, an hour later, I realized I was dead tired, so I went into the hot tub, and guess what? For the first time since I'd woken up at 6 a.m., I was feeling peaceful. Oh my goodness. Then I could go to my day treatment program or my day hospital program and, and sit there without getting up and pacing around and distracting everybody. So that became my daily routine. Get up, go to the pool, have someone take me, and exercise till I dropped. Dorothy says, okay, GMAX says, just downloaded an audiobook about how to be an imperfectionist, which I've started listening to. Found it very shocking to realize how deadly it can be. GMAC, can you email me the link to get to that audiobook? I really would appreciate it. Where did you download it from? Was it Amazon, or was it any other place that you downloaded that book? DouglasBlog@gmail.com. It's a great book, says H.J. Flower. Go get it, everyone. That's my book, Healing from Depression. Thank you for the feedback. Really do appreciate it. What do you suggest if you just don't feel like exercising? Well, there's two things. One is you just got to make yourself do it. And if you can't do that, call up a friend or hire, a personal trainer, which if you join a gym, you can get a personal trainer for as little as $25 a week, and they'll come to your house and make you exercise. If you have an appointment with them at the gym, you have someplace to go and you have a reason to get out. So, have a friend exercise, hire a personal trainer, or one of the people in my group just wills herself to do it, which is easier said than done. Arcade Cup says, I always seem to chase impossible relationships. Also, they seem to have some sort of life issue. I guess we all do. I just feel what I call normies are not stimulating enough for me. Well, you may be addicted to kind of excitement in relationships. I highly recommend you listen to a song on YouTube called "Over My Head" by Fleetwood Mac, which is from their first great album in the early '70s. Uh, your love is like a Ferris wheel; it changes all the time. Sometimes I just don't think I may think I'm wasting all of my time, but then they say I'm over my head, but it sure feels nice. In other words, he's saying this woman, this partner he has is completely inconsistent, is driving him nuts, but it sure feels nice. There's a way in which he feels comfortable with that. Maybe that's Arcade Cup. Maybe you had a caregiver when you were growing up who was manic depressive or was always changing. GMAX says, Greg, I really relate to what you're describing, thinking of you. Yeah, so it can be tough when there's another book called Women Who Love Too Much from the woman's point of view. So yeah, it's really tough. Arcade says all of the women I date had BP or melancholy of sorts. Yeah, well, guess what? I'll tell you this joke. One time, my friend and I were sitting in a bookstore, and I saw, I actually went out with a woman who I met at the bookstore, looking at one of my books, and my friend said, "Are you going to continue dating her?" And I said, "No, she's not sick enough." By that I meant she didn't fit my image of that melancholy woman. My mother had melancholy and depression, so I imprinted on that. So yes, I have been attracted to many women with mental health disorders because of what I learned growing up. So not sick enough meant I don't seem to be attracted to normal women back then, right? They have to be a little quirky or a little bit, weird or, have some sort of mental health problem. So I know what you're doing or know what you're dealing with, and it's hard to break out of that, but you can work with a therapist for absolutely sure. My goddaughter is now sending me images from Mexico that I might find it on my phone and send it to you. Arcade Cup says, definitely addicted to the falling in love stage. Oh, yeah. Well, when you fall in love, M. Scott Peck, the great author of The Road Less Traveled, says you basically are. You basically become psychotic at that point. All the boundaries collapse. You lose track of time, and you come into this oneness, field of oneness, which is not completely sustainable, but it sure feels nice, says Fleetwood Mac. So it's a place like taking heroin that is very easy to get into, the falling in love experience. But it never stays forever. The boundaries snap back, people see each other as individuals, and then the conflict begins. So, like a drug, falling in love only lasts a certain amount of time, and then you come out of it. But it's very, very tempting and addictive. The Forever Freak says, writing is my therapy. It lifts a huge weight off my head each time I write an entry. Hey, I got to write this down. You guys are giving me too many ideas. Where can I get a pen? Here's a pen. Where can I get a piece of paper? My to-do list. Okay, so what are we gonna make a list of? We're gonna make a postpartum depression, perfectionism, and we're gonna make another one on journal therapy. What would you call it? The Forever Freak. Would you call it writing therapy, journaling therapy? Arcade Cup says, "Ha, exactly, Douglas. Yeah, well, now that we know what's going on with you, how can we change it? That's the difficult thing." Let me check my my messages here. See if I can show you an attachment from the Day of the Dead. Wow, this is cool. Look at this, guys. Can you see the skeleton here? There's reflections in here. I apologize, but that's a puppet they have in Mexico City as we speak, celebrating the Day of the Dead. What's another one? Oh yeah, there's just people selling marigolds. That's cool. Anything else? Nope. I hope you enjoyed the skeleton anyway. Writing therapy or daily journaling. Okay, Forever Freak, I'm going to write that down right now. I like daily journaling. That's a good one. And many of my clients have journals. So what does actually journaling do for you, Forever Freak? I'd be curious. Daily journaling. Yeah. How does it, do you use it for anxiety or do you use it for depression? Hey, Define says, hey, Define, nice to see you again. The anxiety has improved since last week. Phew. Hey, what have you done? Have you exercised more? Did some of the antidepressants kick in? Have you practiced cognitive behavioral therapy? Anyway, so getting back to my story, I would exercise until I dropped, and that's how I coped with the agitation until I got better and the depression lifted. So intense exercise will, and I say will, decrease or maybe even eliminate your anxiety temporarily. Oh, meditation. Well, What else is going on in your life? Is it just having additional amount of responsibilities and adult, or a lack of confidence in your abilities? Just curious. GMAC is asking Greg that question. Hey, where are my people from the United Kingdom? Lee McQueen and well, Cade. I think that's different than Arcade Cup. And there's a couple of other people. Dorothy, I think, is from the UK, but we have a bunch of other people that usually tune in. It's the weekday. By the way, video chats 3 times a week. Wednesday at 11 Pacific time, Friday at noon Pacific time, and that's 7 hours difference in Great Britain, and then Sunday at noon Pacific time. By that time, we will have had daylight savings times gone and standard time resumed. So my Sunday chat at 12 p.m. will be at 8 p.m. UK time in Great Britain, in the UK. So these are going to be an upcoming part of my YouTube. Also, my regular YouTube videos every Monday at 7 a.m. And I'm starting a new format called Quick Tips for Depression Recovery. These are like 2 or 3 minute videos, really short, where I give you a nugget of information that you can apply immediately. And so that's going to be posted tomorrow, Thursday, November 2nd. Those of you who are subscribed, you'll get an alert. And speaking of subscribing, I hope all of you who are listening are. If you haven't subscribed, just when we're done, go to my homepage, Healing Depression, and go on the upper right-hand corner. There's a subscribe button. You can click that, and there's a bell to the right of that. If you click on that bell, you'll get notifications for every new video or live stream that is uploaded. Define in Scotland. Okay, UK, thank you. We got another UKer. So Define on Friday, it'll be 7 p.m. your time. On Sunday, it'll be 8 p.m. your time. Jacob Wesley says, write my feelings in a letter and leave them for my wife because I do not express my feelings. One of my clients writes letters to his wife. It's really, really helpful for the communication. Excellent idea. GMAX says, does anybody else feel like when they go to write, they are just giving energy to the negative thoughts and feelings of depression by writing them down? I don't know. When I do it, it seems to release. So that's a good question. Amber Rogers. Hello, Doug. Hey, Amber. From Las Vegas, Nevada, a new client of mine. Hey, if any of you out there are from Nevada or know people in Nevada who are going through depression, anxiety, or in mental health recovery, post them, let me know, and I'll pass it on to Amber, because it's all about connecting and community. Amber, I just sent you week 2 of the 12-week recovery program. I emailed it to you. Did you get it? I hope you did. Anyway, T-Fine says, hey, GMAC, yeah, that's depression talking through. Usually expression is always good. What you can't feel, you can't heal. So the worst thing you can do is to repress your feelings and keep them inside. Remember what Woody Allen says, I don't get angry, I just grow tumors. Wasn't Woody Allen funny? I have some stuff I like to say, but it's probably not quite appropriate for the channel. But I like what he said. He said that life alternates between the horrible and the miserable. So you should be thankful you're miserable, because you could have leprosy and cancer and all these things like that. So just be thankful you're miserable. Now that is someone who suffers from dysthymia, low-grade chronic depression. I made a video on that. Good old Woody Allen. Do you think exercise can be a form of meditation? Absolutely. One of my best friends, who's a phenomenal cyclist, just takes off and rides 45 miles. And by the time he's in mile 15, he's zoned out. He's just in a state of complete being in the here and now. He uses it as a form of meditation. Found some new hobbies since my depressive episode, which really seemed to help when the same structures continue to keep my mood stuck. Yeah, hobbies are very, very, very important. Forever Freak says, I use it for both. I have not been diagnosed with either, but I know I have some form of it. Tend to write fictional stories and affirmations. It's good because my mind is always racing. Forever Freak, what have you been diagnosed with? Yeah, I got it all. Yeah, I got it. I will start reading as soon as possible, says Amber. Greg Sanders says, hey, you writers, check out Steam It. You can write and get paid for it. Really? My God. So here's a joke, from, I might have told last week. So 3 people go up to heaven, and they're at the pearly gates, and St. Peter is there to meet them, because we are at the time between the thin veil between the living and dead, so we can talk about people dying and going to heaven. So St. Peter asked the first person, how much money did you make the year before you died? And the guy says, well, I was a corporate lawyer. I made $150,000. Then he goes to the second guy, and St. Peter says, how much money did you make during the year before you died? And the man says, well, I was a realtor. I made $95,000. Then St. Peter approaches the third man. How much money do you make? And the man says, $8,000. St. Peter says, cool. What books did you write? You think I'm joking? The person who wrote the greatest novel of the 20th century, The Great Gatsby, the wonderful F. Scott Fitzgerald, the year before he died of alcoholism at the age of 42, his last royalty check was $11.67. Now, is that pathetic? Considering he wrote the greatest book of the 20th century, The Great Gatsby. You guys should listen to it on tape. His language is phenomenal. So yeah, we writers don't get paid enough. So Greg Sandler, thank you. I'll give you 10% of everything I make. I really appreciate it. 7-1, I think I'm addicted to food. I can't stop eating or thinking about eating. Any tips? Yes, go to Overeaters Anonymous, a 12-step group. Buy a book or take out a book by a very famous author. It's called When Food is Love. She's so famous I can't remember her name, but she has written a number of books on compulsive eating. She's really good. The name of the book is called When Food is Love. If somebody could look it up on Google right now and tell me that the author, I'm just blocking it. I don't mean B-L-O-C-H, I mean B-L-O-C-K. I'm blocking it out. When Food is Love. Please, someone look that up right now. Your next book needs to involve daily puns. I'm sure there are books. I actually have a book of daily puns, and some of them are really horrible. I mean, of course, I like this one. I wonder why the ball was getting larger. And then it hit me. Isn't that clever? The earthquake professor found that his theory of earthquakes was on shaky ground. Oh my God. Janine Roth, thank you. H.J. Flower, you're a miracle. Where do you live, by the way? Janine Roth wrote When Food is Love. And have you read any of her books? Who said they were struggling with overeating? Whoever that was. 7-1. Get When Food is Love by Janine Roth, please. My first partner, I used to run support groups for overeaters out of our home. I learned a lot about the phenomenon. It's like everything else. Why do people eat? Why do people drink? Why do people shoot up? Because they want to change their mood, and because they want to change the way they feel. Now, one of my upcoming quick depression tips videos, which is going to be posting probably next week, is called "The 2 Best Ways to Change Your Mood for the Better." And I guarantee you, it's not eating, it's not drinking, it's not shooting up. So go ahead and wait for that video. But yes, so overeating is completely understandable why people do it. Unfortunately, as you know, it's not really productive over the long run. Thank you again, H.J. Flower. And again, 7-1, try Overeaters Anonymous. Go to overeatersanonymous.org or type it in Google and you'll find some meetings near you. Dorothy Yu says, do you believe you could get punished for committing suicide? You come back again? No, I don't think people are punished. I have a metaphysical teacher who says that what happens is when you're on the other side, wanting to reincarnate, you have this urge of wanting to come back to life and you can't do it. So you feel this sense of, being cut off from life. So that's more a consequence of the suicide, but it doesn't last forever. And eventually it goes away. But God, suicide, we've been on here for 48 minutes. During the 48 minutes that you and we have been chatting, 4 people in the United States have killed themselves, 1 every 12 minutes. This is a disgrace. It shouldn't have to happen, and it doesn't have to happen. I have dealt with at least 50 people who have been suicidal through my coaching and my therapy and the people online I've helped, and also the people who have written to me and the people in my groups. And with one exception, they've all made it through. And I've been suicidal 4 times. I have a number of videos on this channel on suicide prevention. Suicide prevention. You don't want to make a profession of suicide. It wouldn't last very long, would it? It's called How to Find Alternatives to Suicide. And the other one is called How I Coped with Suicidal Thoughts and Feelings. Check them out. They're 2 of my most popular videos, but guess what? Google has demonetized them, which means I can't make money from them because it's quote unquote not suitable for advertisers. What do you mean it's not suitable? I'm telling people how not to commit suicide. There was a woman who called in a last video chat last Wednesday who said, you don't know it, but watching that video of yours saved my life. And I went into, I think her name was Julie, I went into the hospital and got better. So these videos are doing a service. Why would you want to take away the ability for people to get paid for them? Because suicide is such a taboo in this culture. No one wants to talk about it. So no, Dorothy, I don't think you really get punished. I do think you come back again because I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in ghosts. I do believe in ghosts. Wait a minute, that's from the Wizard of Oz. I do believe in reincarnation. But I don't think people really get punished. Did you come off effects, Douglas? I'm afraid the long-term effects of staying on medication with the brain. Well, I did come off and I made it off, and people do. I've seen people come off of Effexor. Long-term effect, they have not found that there are any really bad long-term effects for staying on antidepressants. So if it's a difference between being depressed or maybe risking something down the line, I would stay on the Effexor. If you want to see what life is like without it, go off it gradually under the supervision of a psychiatrist and see if you can hold your mood. If you can't, well, maybe you need it. You mean diabetics need insulin, right? One day soon, I would like to come out there to have a one-on-one session in person. Well, Amber, that's very nice of you. I think flights from Las Vegas to Portland. Oh, arcade cups. Hey, you donated $10, and look, your thing came right up in yellow. Thank you. Thank you for insights, Douglas. Of course, other people chatting. Any tips on socializing and feeling at ease with a group of people? Yes, start small. Start very small. We had a guy coming to my group. Uh, he had social anxiety. We only had 5 people in the group. That he could handle. After a couple of weeks, he said, I'm feeling more comfortable with these 5 people. I'm getting to know them. I feel comfortable with them. And as we added more and more people to the group, he continued to get used to them. So, yeah, feeling comfortable socializing, you can do it. Also, there's a drug called Paxil, Paxil, which has been approved for social anxiety. I've heard people taking it and getting off it, and it helping them. But I think that the behavioral effect should be technique should be tried first, and I've known a lot of people who've overcome it. You probably are more of an introvert, believe it or not. So am I, even though I ramble here. That's because I don't have to be around people. I'm by myself in my office, unprotected. I have a beautiful plant outside here. I've got my cat sleeping next to me. I feel safe. But you can basically, by slow exposure, uh, uh, come to basically connect with people and feel safe. And again, there must be many books written about it. Thank you for your donation, Arcade Cup. Really appreciate it. And uh, why don't I do a video on social anxiety, Arcade Cup? Again, something I haven't done. I'm writing it down. You know why? I'd rather have a long, what's the word? I'd rather have I'll think of it in a second. So there's social anxiety. I'd rather have a short pencil than long memory, you know? You can remember, you can forget things almost immediately after you think about them, but if you write them down, they're there forever. That's why writing books is so cool, because ars longa, vita brevis, as they say in Latin. Life is short, but art endures. So if you want to become immortal, they say either have a child, plant a tree, or write a book. Let me see. No children for me. I haven't planted a tree yet, so I guess my books are my last option. Speaking of which, one more time, a little plug. Uh, Healing from Depression, 12 Weeks to a Better Mood. Seriously, it has my 12-week program right here. You can also work with me through personal coaching like Amber is doing, like Mike is doing, over the internet. It's not very expensive. We just go over each chapter of the book for $50 a week, much less than a therapy session. Jacob Wesley says, you should not be punished for making videos for advising on suicide. I watch motivation videos if I get depressed. No, I shouldn't be punished, but I'm not the only one. Believe me. Look at other suicide prevention videos, and you'll see that YouTube has demonetized them. Google is cheap. Apple has great customer service 7 days a week. You can't call anybody from Google to talk about YouTube injustices. I wish you could. I mean, I really appreciate that Google has made this forum available. They do great work. So I'm not being critical of Google, but I'm saying in this one particular case, they should have a customer service line so people can give feedback when they think a video is good, but it's not being monetized. Greg Sandler, what about if you don't feel very intelligent with socializing? This causes anxiety. Well, just tell yourself, I'm smart, I'm good enough, and just talk about things you feel comfortable with. Things you must have some knowledge of some things you feel comfortable talking about. Other thing, Greg, is to join something called Toastmasters. They give you tremendous experience talking in front of a group of people. Perfect for people who have social anxiety. I hear it's a phenomenal organization, and they work with people to overcome their fears. Do you know, Greg, that the number one fear in America is fear of public speaking? Can you believe it? Even more than fear of death, so you're not alone. Like the pun, although not intentional, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz in one sentence. Yes, very cool. I think it's the speed at which you come off antidepressants which is dangerous. I came up paroxetine, which is Paxil, after 11 years and 2 months. This was the start of my worst episode, and triggered MECFS, which I'm not quite sure what those stand for. It was far too fast. I didn't realize the dangers. Nervous system needs time to wean off and adapt. Define, you're absolutely correct, and that's a letter of warning for other people. Well, we have 55 minutes, 55. We've got 55 minutes. We have 5 minutes left. I'm looking for another picture from my goddaughter. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh my goodness. Here's a skeleton sitting at a table right there. Isn't that cool? I'm sorry about the light reflections on it. Here, maybe I'll do it at more of an angle. Well, oh well. I'm doing my best. Put that in front of the camera, Doug. Anyway, if you can make out it, it's a skeleton. Anyway, the Day of the Dead in Mexico. Do you have any advice on becoming a grief counselor? Yeah. You become a pastoral counselor at a university master's program, and they will tell you all about Greek counseling. Greek counseling. Do any Greeks need counseling out there? I meant to say grief counseling. There must be a pun in that somewhere. Yes. Or you can say, here we have something called the Dougie Center, named after me. No, it wasn't named after me. DOUGY Center. Look it up on the internet, Greg, really. So what they do is they counsel children who have lost parents, whose parents have died from natural causes, even from suicide. And you go through a volunteer training and you become a volunteer counselor, and you do nothing but counsel children who are going through grief. That's amazing. If you lived in Portland, you could go through that training in maybe 12 weeks or however long it takes. You wouldn't have to go to a 2 years master's program. Depression, my diary says thumbs up. I'm not quite sure what for, but cool. See if there's any volunteer places where you live, Define. I think you said you were from Scotland, maybe somewhere in the UK. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Thank you very much, CFS. I don't know what ME is, but probably something similarly bad. See if you can find a place where you can become a volunteer grief counselor for a place like the Dougie Center. Unless you want to go back to school and get a degree, then you could get paid for being in a hospital and helping people who have gone through losses. Of course, if you become a minister, you do that all the time. G Max says, how long have you been on medication, Douglas? Well, since I got out of the hospital in January of 2016, so that was about 21 months. But I don't really think the Wellbutrin is helping, to be quite honest. But my nurse practitioner, and I did a video on this called Will These Bouts of Depression Ever End? He said, Doug, you've been through 5 episodes of depression, 5 hospitalizations. You don't want to risk going off the Wellbutrin, because what if it is working? And then you're down in the pit. And I'll tell you one thing, guys. There were 2 basic tasks when you're going through hell, as I write about in my book, When Going Through Hell Don't Stop. The first is getting out of hell, and the second is staying out. Well, right now I'm in maintenance. I'm trying to stay out of hell. But if I had a relapse and I had to get out of hell, let me tell you, it is a lot harder to get out than to stay out. You know, when you're staying out of hell, when you're in maintenance, you just have to worry, make sure you don't fall back into the abyss, and watch where you're going. But when you are in hell, when you have a relapse, you're in the abyss, and that's it. You got to come out of it. That's a lot harder than just avoiding it. So maybe I should stay on the Wellbutrin. We've got about 2 minutes left, and let me tell you that once I go off the air, the live chat still exists. I've had people chat with each other and communicate with each other for 10, 15 minutes after I'm off the air, after the streaming has stopped. So if some of you want to make comments and talk to each other, that's perfectly okay. So a couple more questions before we end today's session. Remember, we're coming back on air 12 o'clock Friday Pacific time, which is 7 p.m. UK time, and also 12 o'clock on Sunday, which is 8 p.m. UK time. Those are the next 2 live streams. And on Thursday, tomorrow, I'm posting a video on a quick tip from recovering from anxiety and depression, and Monday, my regular weekly video. I feel like I have a TV show. Okay, we got to get the ratings up, guys. Tell all your friends. Okay, 7-1 says, I'm diagnosed with ADHD, but got addicted very heavily to stimulants. Oh, yeah, as my mother would say. Is there something else that would work that I wouldn't get addicted to? I take Adderall as such a stimulant. How do you deal with ADHD without chemicals? Meditation. That will calm your mind and focus it and keep from going all over the place. Also, if you exercise, when you're exercising, if you exercise to something like a steady, count like I was talking about, I am healing, I am whole, do you get rhythmic? That could probably help focus you, and it would also calm your nervous system. But why don't you Google healing ADD without medication and see what you come up with. Kay, did you say 12 on Friday? I missed it. Well, 12 on Friday on West Coast time. If you are in the UK, that would be 7 p.m. your time. So this Friday, the 3rd of November. Jacob Wesley says, I have my notices for your channel. Does that mean you get alerted every time I come on? Is that because you're a loyal subscriber, Jacob? If you are, kudos to you. Again, just go to the homepage and click on the subscribe button. Well, it's been 1 hour and 20 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. The sun is out. If I don't take a bike ride, I will take a walk. And it's been great chatting with all of you guys. Your questions have been beyond excellent. Have someone monitor your ADD meds. H.J. Flower says, yeah, I have a gal who takes ADD meds and has to go to either the pharmacy or to the prescriber to get them. So yeah, if they're not around, out of sight, out of mind. So that's not a bad idea. Thank you, H.J. Flower. So ideas of upcoming videos that you guys have given me. Postpartum depression, perfectionism, journal therapy. I can't write my own handwriting. My God. Something kind of anxiety. My goodness, I need to take a handwriting course. I'll figure it out. I often tend to compare myself to friends or thriving younger sister, cause negative feelings. Yeah, it's called a weapon of comparison, Forever Freak. The weapon of comparison. I may actually do a video. Are you practicing the weapon of comparison? I like that. What do you think, Forever Freak? That's a great idea. Have a good day, Doug. I got the number for psychiatrist too, just to let you know. Excellent. And Greg says social anxiety. Oh, Greg, thank you so much. I can't even read the word social. My God, do I need to basically take handwriting lessons? Okay, the other one says it looks like July 5th. I can't forget it. Oh, well. So, it's been great talking with you on November 1st, the Day of the Dead from sunny Portland, Oregon. Enjoy your time outside. Mike says, thanks, Douglas. I'll look further into this as a Forever Freak. The weapon of comparison. You can get over that, and it's something I still do. Hey, when I was depressed and was on Social Security disability and going day treatment, my brother was working for Citibank as a vice president. Do you think I compared myself? Of course I did. It's natural to do that. But then my therapist said something wise to me, Forever Freak, and she said, your job right now is to recover, is to stay in recovery, is not to kill yourself, is to get out of this depression. That's much more difficult than having a job as a vice president of a financial services company. So don't give yourself credit for what you're doing. You're doing something really, really tough. So all you guys, give yourself credit for whatever you're doing. Love yourself. Affirm yourself. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, as they say in AA. Don't compare your insides to somebody else's outsides. Love and forgive yourself. And those are good words to close on. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Friday, some of you. And if you have any questions, again, one more time, email address is douglasblock@gmail.com. Hey, as we say south of the border, since it is the Day of the Dead in Mexico, hasta luego. Thank you.